Waking and sleeping, it does not change God. I pray because it changes me. It's just beautiful, beautiful. And this kind of like transitions me to what I want to talk to you guys about next, which is when to like shut up in prayer, okay? Seems a little harsh, but we have to remember that prayer has two sides to it, okay? Our side and God's side. And so when we look at it from our side, sometimes it's just like we have to use our imagination, like, okay, I'm putting myself with God, right? And I'm just going to say all these words to him, right? I'm just like shouting at this wall to feel better. And I'm just like, blah, like into the air. And I'm having to use my imagination, and like, that's not what our prayer should be, okay? Like, our prayer should be that like, we're humiliating ourselves. We're giving up our time and being like, hey, I'm with God, right? But then again, we have to think about it like from God's side, okay? And from God's side, he's just saying like, all right, like I want to better this relationship with you, right? I want to be with you. Like we're together, we're praying, I want this. But like, shut up, okay? Like all we do, because like it's really hard to pray, right? Like we can all say that. It's hard to hold on to our prayers. And often when we pray, we're just filling our prayer up with words, right? We're just trying to say all these different things so that we're holding on to that presence of God, so that we're holding on to our intention with God. And he's just like, look, I want to help you. I want to like be able to do this with you, but all you're doing is talking with me. Like, I want you to listen to me for just one moment. Just give me a second of your time. Like, we need to realize that sometimes we have to give God space in our prayer to respond to what we're saying, okay? Like, one of the most powerful tools I really learned when I was trying to like develop my prayer life and really work on it is actually silence. And that kind of maybe sounds like the opposite almost of what you want to do when you pray, right? You don't want to just like, okay, I'm just going to like, I'm praying. And just stand there, right? Like you don't want to be quiet in your prayer, right? But you have to realize that silence is like a deeper idea than being quiet, okay? You're not just being quiet when you're being silent. Being silent is having this attitude of someone who wants to listen, right? You're desiring to listen to God. And that's the importance of it. That's why we need to be silent in our prayers. And this is kind of also where our prayers begin to change us, okay? Because like a good example of this is like, we're vessels. I don't know if anyone has heard this before. Like we're vessels and we need to empty ourselves so God can fill us up. And so when we are silent, we are literally emptying ourselves of ourselves. We're being silent so God can then come in and talk to us and fill us up. And I mean, like that's just like this really beautiful example. And like St. Augustine like knew that, and that's why he said like if he must increase, I must decrease, right? That's the whole idea behind that. And I mean, often like in the world we surround ourselves with like, there's all this chatter, there's all this gossip, arguments, just all this constant noise pressing down with us. And we become someone who really like just like can't listen, can't give up a moment of their time to God. And like our world almost like transforms us into one where we're focusing on our exterior life versus our interior one. Like we just like exalt our egos, we feed our pride, like we're on social media like every single day, and we've almost become someone who like is soulless just because like, we just don't like take care of our souls anymore. And our prayers are all like mumbled and jumbled together, right? Or like we'll pray for like 10 different things in like 1 minute just because we know we have to hit these points and I have to pray, so I'm doing this. And that's when we go back to like, this is good because we're giving up our time to God, we're humiliating ourselves. But we also have to be like, hey, maybe I should just like pray for one thing, I can come back and just really focus on that one thing and just be quiet for a moment and just give myself to God. Like we must create in ourselves like this interior silence, this place where we can go to pray, like this interior spot in our soul to be quiet and be with God. And that's really why I want to talk to you guys about these two things, about prayer and about silence, because they go like hand in hand together. Like you really need one with the other. Because I mean, like when we decide to pray, when we're like, all right, God, we're going together, we're gonna go to your house, we're gonna pray. Like when we pass through those doors, the moment we do, we just find this room like echoing with every single aspect of our lives, every single memory, all our worries, all our fears are bouncing around the room. They're causing our thoughts to go every which way. And we try to enter into that quiet spot. We try to like, okay, like I know I have all these things. I know I have an exam next week. I know like my sister's sick. I know I have to like pray for all these things. I know I have to focus on them. but I also don't want that to dominate my prayer, right? I want to also focus on God. And it's really hard to do that because we just have like this crowd of memories, right? Just like yelling at us, just like bogging down our souls, bringing them back down to earth, when really we should be focusing on Him. And so the fundamental question becomes, like, how can we silence our thoughts? How can we help lead our prayers to heaven? And Mother Teresa, love her, like she pointed out was that,
Saint Teresa. I'm sorry.
everyone knows what that is.
I'm sorry, girl.
Like, she was quick to point out two things, is that Jesus taught us how to pray, and He taught us how to learn from Him to be meek and humble of heart. And that's where the answer is. If we really want to be silent in our prayer and really devote our prayer to God, like, we have to be humble. It's only like through like self-renunciation that we really get this. And like that seems pretty daunting, right? But really it's because like we don't think God is like out there. He's not with us out in the real world. Like, we know He's here on the retreat, right? We're focusing on Him, but we don't really see Him like in our daily lives. Like, we see school, we see grades, we see video games, we see all these other things, because those are the relationships we're working on. Those are the relationships we're developing, and we're not developing our relationship with God. And like, we have to realize that prayer is our resistance to other things taking over our lives, right? Silence is our shield against those temptations. And I imagine someone like who never prays could never understand God. Like, and that's just how it is like in our personal lives, right? The more you spend time with someone, the more you're with them, the more you can pick up on like every little thing about them, right? You can just see your best friend and instantly know how they're feeling. And that's how it should be with prayer. Like, we should get to the point where we can just enter into like the presence of God in our prayer, enter into that state of being where we're praying with God, and we know exactly how He feels about what we are praying for. He knows what it is, and those emotions that we feel, that's Him communicating with us. That's us listening to Him. And that's really what we should strive for. And like, we can make like all excuses we want, that we're busy, we have too much going on. But if we have that like quiet spot, that silence, like, we can pray anywhere, anytime, just because we can go there. We can always go there and be with Him. And I know that like everything I've said to you guys so far, right, they're just words, right? This is just motivation, okay? I'm trying to motivate you guys to pray more, because ultimately it's on you, okay? Ultimately, the change you want, you have to do it. You have to fulfill that. You have to go out and execute that, okay? Because, we all know that, like, our faith doesn't come in, like, a couple of minutes, right? It's not even going to come out on this retreat, right? You're not just going to find your faith on this retreat. You're going to find it years later, after you have developed your relationship with God, after you have gained that state of being where you know you're with Him and He's with you, and you just know each other, and that feeling, those emotions. Like, it's going to suck. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to seem pointless. You may be milking a cow, I'm sorry, right? But, like, this is your prayer life though, okay? Like, this is your spiritual life. And this should be the most important thing in your life, because your relationship with God is the most important thing in your life. And if you want to better that relationship with God, the only way you can better that relationship with God is through prayer. That's the only way. It's just like, it's that simple. And so, I'll just end again by saying that quote from C.S. Lewis. So, I pray because I can't help myself. I pray because I am helpless. I pray because the need flows out of me all the time. Waking and sleeping, it does not change God. I pray because it changes me. Thanks, you guys.